Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Multifamily Hangout. I want to start by thanking our sponsors, Apartment Snapshot and GPS Roof Leak Repairs, for being a great partner and making this broadcast possible. I'm your host, Adrian Danila. With this being said, I'm going to let my co host here, Chris Moreno, take it away.
Awesome. Thank you, Adrian. And, fresh off of a fun week last week, I'm so excited to have a special guest today. First time on the podcast. She is very active in the industry, has incredible experience, and isn't just focused on, operations and culture, but also innovation. And one of the things that stands out about her is how much she supports others and the careers of others and gives back to others and is constantly answering questions. One of the funny things is in prep for today, she said, "Can I ask you all questions?" And I love that she's constantly curious, because I always learn from her every time I get to see her. She is so humble. As I looked up, grew from hundreds of units under management to out now over 5,000 units between North and Southern California. So without further ado, an incredible leader in our industry of multifamily. She pays it forward. She's an advocate, and she's paying it forward to pass the baton. Without further ado, welcome Mary Gwyn to the podcast.
Wow, Chris and Adrian, thank you so much for letting me be on here. And I hope you don't mind. It's North Carolina, the other coast from California. We're based in, they would have figured it out anyway by my Southern accent, right?
Oh, did I say California? I thought I said Northern. Did I say Northern California? Oh my goodness.
Okay. Or who knows? Yeah.
Well, that's what happens when you're on, the travel schedule.
Well, you've been everywhere.
Yeah. Well, Mary, I would love to hear, obviously today you're the chief innovator with your partner in crime at Apartment Dynamics. I would love to hear the story of how you got into multifamily.
Oh, Chris, thank you for asking. And it's so funny. I'm like so many others. It's like all by accident. So way back in the day, I was this starving, unemployed college student, and I answered an ad in the newspaper because that's where people used to advertise. There was no Indeed, there was no LinkedIn. So I answered an ad in the newspaper and it said, "Be assistant to the president." And I thought, well, yeah, that sounds like me, right? So I took a polygraph, something I don't think they do anymore. I was so nervous, but I assume I passed because I got the job. And when I started, they handed me this huge wad of keys. It was huge. And I learned that my job was the delinquent rent collection and filing evictions for over 2,000 apartment units in one town. That wasn't exactly what I thought that I was signing up for, but it was really neat because when I did the evictions, I would end up getting to go on properties. And when I would go to the properties, I would see that these leasing pros, they were talking to people, they were helping them find their home, they were having a big time. And so the first opportunity that I had to go on site in a leasing role, I took it, leasing, evicting, leasing. Leasing was so much more fun, and I learned so much by helping people find their homes. Mary, how about you guys? How'd you get into it, Adrian?
So back in 2003, I was new to the country, new to the United States. I wasn't speaking much of an English, and I had a hard time finding a job, right? You don't speak the language, you don't have any work history. It's hard for people to take a chance on you. But eventually, after a few months of doing like odd jobs, a friend of mine said, "Hey, there's a couple of groundskeeper jobs at Georgia Tech. Why don't you check them out? Just apply." So I went and applied, and nobody called. But then the word groundskeeper stuck with me. So I went ahead and started applying for groundskeeper jobs until I finally got a part-time job, an interview for a part-time job at a smaller apartment community in Duluth, Georgia. I went ahead, they offered me the job, and this is how everything started for me.
Wow. And what a career path. That's amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's been a great ride.
And I'm still learning every day. My grandfather was actually, when I was 8 and 9 years old, my grandfather used to develop towns and cities, and he would actually
Wow.
buy dirt. He was a civil engineer, so it's crazy because I actually go back to that time when I would go with him, survey the land, survey the water rights, prepare sites for the developers, and it was really interesting to learn
Wow.
about California in the early days before these towns were built. And then fast forward. I used to work in procurement at Macy's Corporate and got to learn a ton about rolling out technologies and remote work. And I saw this little tiny supplier partner called Laundry Locker, ended up joining them. And we ended up building a thing called package lockers. And we rode the wave of the biggest challenge of packages for about 8 years, ended up selling that business. And then now got into investing in multifamily with others, and then helping other founders. So it's been a blast to now be on the side of helping support innovation and technology, and learning from innovators like yourself. So yeah, thank you for asking us though. I love, again, you were one of the most inquisitive people when you're at an event. And for those in the audience, we have a great group of people now already in the audience. I'm always happy when we have 20 people, Mary, in the audience, but today we have a great group. If you ever meet Mary at an event, she is so intentional in asking questions, sharing stories. But I think one of the other things I would love to ask you, Mary, to follow on to how you got into the industry is, from the first companies you were at, how did you decide to go from there to actually now, was it going off onto your own, or was it something you knew like you were going to build with other partners? Like, how did you make that decision to go from other companies into your own company, and then obviously focus on leading a team and growing that team?
Oh, Chris, I have a dramatic story on that because it was quite accidental. I had held a job since I was 16 years old and worked for someone else, and I just assumed I would always work for someone else. And what I kiddingly say, the last real job I had was running a small company. I had worked for one of the larger privately held companies in North Carolina, and then I went and ran a smaller company. And all these things happened. Life happened. My husband at that time had developed cancer. The owner of the company, it was a single owner, he owned all the assets. He died. My mission at that point was to sell off his portfolio because his heirs were two lifetime debutantes. They were never going to run or be actively involved in the business. So it was best for them that I sold off the portfolio. And then my husband passed away. And so all of a sudden, it's like I was unemployed, unencumbered, everything. And it was one of those eye-opening moments that we have in life. And so I started looking for the next job, and I had great offers. I had an offer to work for one of the largest REITs, but I had to move to Chicago. I had an opportunity for a big job in Dallas and one in DC, but nothing in my little home area. And I had a little grace or time to figure out what the next gig was going to be. But I just wasn't ready for a huge life change after all of that. So it was interesting. Different of my business friends called and said, "Hey, you're not doing anything right now. Would you come train my team on leasing?" And then someone else called and said, "Hey, I have this struggling asset over here. Would you come figure out what's going on and help us solve this problem?" And it just escalated to where different people were reaching out and asking me to fix stuff in the industry. And then I met this incredible person, Jennifer Nevitt, who founded YieldStar. And she hired me as a consultant to that project and to help with other projects. And so this filling the time while looking for a job became the job, and I became a consultant and trainer. And I'm sorry to go so long, but there's another aspect to the story. So I was very blessed to meet Gwyn, who is now my husband and business partner. And I was still consulting and training. And one of my past clients from when I was way back, when I worked for Bell Properties, which is a huge company, that former client had tracked me down and said, "Hey, we want you to manage the property that you managed for us way back." And I said, "Oh, well, thank you for that, but I don't do that anymore." And he said, "Well, we need you to manage this property." And I said, "Yeah, I understand, and I can help you find somebody, but I don't do that." And he goes, "Well, yeah." And so I prayed about it, and Tom and I prayed about it, and we became a property management company. And 22 years later, we still manage that asset, which is kind of funny because it was our start, 222 apartment homes. And boy, we have stories we can tell about that as well. It's been an incredible journey. And I think one of the takeaways is even when you own your own company and you work for yourself, you really are serving others. You really are working for other people. We work for our clients. We work to provide a great place for our employees, we hope. We work for our resident customers. And we'd like to think we work for our supplier partners too, to make sure they're compensated fairly and timely. You know, it's you're always serving somebody else in what you do. Long story.
Take as long as you want, Mary. It's a fascinating story. I wanted to ask you about the journey with apartment dynamics in particular, right? How you became the chief innovator, and then tell us about this journey of scaling from 200 plus units to is it 5,000 now? Around 5,000 units?
We're over 5,000, and our goal is to continue to grow. Not for us, believe it or not. Tom and I would be happy even with 222 units. We were happy then. We're happy with over 5,000. We um, we learned though that as we grew, and we grew organically at first, different friends of our client said, "Hey, you're doing such a good job for," it was referrals. It was, "You're doing such a good job for this property in Kernersville. Will you help us as well? Or do you think you can help us?" And so at first we weren't very strategic or very smart about looking for clients. I'd like to think that we're more strategic, but really the reason we are working hard to continue to grow, and we have a goal of hitting 7,500 units in the next year or two. The reason we want to grow though is we have great employees, really great ones, and uh, we work to try to help them grow to achieve their goals. But most of them, because of our size, to achieve their goals, they have to go somewhere else, and they'll say, "We like your culture. We like working on this team. We like our work family, but we want to continue to grow." So our growth plan has been in part so that we could grow and let our team members grow to the roles they want to grow and still be part of our company. Uh, it's really been so neat to see team members grow. Like we have an employee who's been with us 20 years, which is amazing. And she's grown to what she wants to do at this time. And we have some 15, 16-year employees. It's been fun to watch everybody grow.
That's so cool. It sounds like the obviously a culture. There's many words you can put on something, but I think like for you, it sounds like the culture you've created, not only for the company but yourselves and the way you're acting every day and carrying out your work and your time and being intentional with people. So tell me a little bit about maybe the secret nuggets or secret sauce about your personal culture and maybe how that's a part of the company culture.
Wow. Well, if you've looked on our website at all, and I don't know if you did, but we say we are assets of excellence, maximizing assets of excellence. And we we do believe our culture is really what that secret sauce is. And we talk a lot about our core values. One of them's positivity, results driven, authentic, innovative, servant leaders, elevating others. And, I know it's a lot of words, but we like to think that each of our team members has personal stories that tell how they live those values. In fact, we still, during the pandemic, everybody had town halls, daily, weekly, monthly, whatever they had to have in order to communicate problems or processes or changes in policies or whatever. Well, we still have a weekly town hall every single week, and every employee tries to attend. And sometimes there are emergencies or whatever, but it's an opportunity. It lasts somewhere between 5 to 15 minutes usually, but it's an opportunity to talk about um, our culture, our values. We did for a long while have a core values pop quiz every week, and people got prizes. But there are other things like on that. Um, we have something called Sparks every week, and it's spotlighting positivity and acts of random kindness. It's an opportunity to celebrate things that our team members uh, tell on each other about. Like a recent example is somebody helped change a maintenance team member helped change a tire on somebody's car, and one of his team members took a picture and submitted it as a spark. And so we get to tell about it on our town hall, or we celebrate anniversaries and promotions and things like that. And believe it or not, on our town hall, we even celebrate the people that are leaving us. I know that sounds really weird. We acknowledge people that have served us well, and we tell everybody, wish so and so well. He's gonna leave and take another role somewhere else, but hopefully he'll be back. And it's a small industry, as you guys know, and I try to tell people, be nice, play nice, because you may end up working for that person that used to work for you. And so we love to send off people well as celebrating the people who stay and are with us and grow with us. I hope that answers your question about culture.
Definitely does. I love it. I love the stories. That's one of the greatest things about being able to sit with, you, is to hear your stories and to hear how detailed you get. So thank you for diving in.
Yeah, I do get a little detailed, don't I?
I love it. I love it.
Mary, managing 5,000 units is a huge endeavor. Maybe for some that work for 20,000 units might think 5,000 units is not that much. Yes, that's a lot. There's 5,000 families that you got to look out for
Yes.
every single day. Hundreds. By the way, how many employees do you have currently?
We have 131.
Yeah,
and that is a lot. It's a lot of responsibility. You want to make sure that that you're providing a great workplace for them, and that every minute of a job can't be fun and the best, but you want to make sure that to the best of our ability we provide good pay and good benefits, and a place that for the most part most days are good.
So if you were to think about this current journey with apartment dynamics, and think about growing for 200 units to more 100 units to thousands to 5,000s, what are the main challenges that you remember having along the way in growing? Because obviously we all know that we're in operations, you don't manage 200 units like you manage 2,000 or 5,000
Mhm.
units. There's a different things that you do in a process. So what were some challenges that you've experienced in a process, and how did you overcome those challenges?
Adrian, that is a great question. And we have definitely experienced growing pains. And one of the toughest things about that is I always feel like it's my fault when they're growing pains. We we have a wonderful, wonderful client that used us on a couple of properties, but had the rest of their portfolio with another company. And that company wasn't based out of North Carolina, and they didn't really, they weren't licensed here. They didn't really understand some of the laws and rules and nuances and markets. And so our client said, hey, we'd like you to take on the rest of our portfolio. And that meant going from 500 units with them to 2,000. And we said, sure, we'll phase that in and we'll work with you, because that's a big chunk for, if that took us basically to 5,500 units. And so it was quite a chunk for us to eat all at one time. And they said, oh, well, no, we want to do it all at once. And we were like, I don't know, that doesn't sound like a good idea, because, there are so many systems in place. And Adrian, Chris, you've probably both been in transitions in your career that no matter how well you plan and how much time you have, it's always messy, right? Always. So us trying to take on 1,500 units all at one hit in different cities, well, our client was pretty persuasive and made it sound like, you can do it. Well, we did it. We did it over a course of a month. And it was not just messy, it was very messy. And for them, it was worth the sacrifice. They realized how messy it was going to be. But I truly am an optimist. I'm one of those, my glass is not just half full, it's like overflowing with whipped cream on top, And so I thought, we can do this. We can really do it. But it did cause a lot of heartburn for our team members. And so we have this internal agreement that we don't do it that fast and that way anymore. We really, if we are pretty sure it's too much, too fast, too soon, we would, for both the client's best interests and our own, we would say, no, we can't do it that way. I'm not good with no. Are y'all good with no? Chris, you're good with no?
I'm getting much better at it. I learned something interesting recently. You may already know this, but a person taught me, when you say no to something, you're saying no to one thing. When you say yes to something, you're saying no to a lot of things. And that's something I am working to train myself to say no more. And I try to be very upfront with people. I think it's something else I learned from people telling me no is, you know what? There's a time, to your point, there's a time and a place. And I think what you just hit on, we just had a conversation with another operator who just shared the challenges of rollouts, and that to your point, how stressful you said it can be on your teams to have rollouts, whether it's expansion within the business, whether it's hiring on new people, or things that happened during COVID, but even implementation, like, you talk about with innovation and rollouts, you can't do it all at once. So you have to tell people no. If you don't tell people no and you do everything, then where's your focus, right? Is what I've learned. So absolutely, like I think I'm getting better. How about you, Adrian? Are you getting better at saying no, or
I would say that this is a real struggle for me. I have periods, right, when I'm just kind of like refusing to get involved in things to protect my time, which is good for all of us. But then I fall back into the old, ways of like saying yes to too many things, and it's kind of like a balancing act, right? You start getting stressed out. You see that you're dropping the ball, you're disappointing people, because you are. The reality is you are. When you're not making good to your commitments, and then I really draw the line. Like I'm good at one thing, I'm good at this. Like when it gets too hot, I'm drawing the line and I'm saying no. Like I'm definitely like, it's time for no. Like, I'm sorry, I can't take this on. I'm sorry, I can't do this for you. I'm sorry, this is not a good, this is not a good situation. Like, it's not a good opportunity. You might need someone else. So it's kind of like up and down for me.
It's an important skill, and I love your saying. I'm going to make you, after this is over, I'm going to make you let me write it down, so Chris, so that I have that, because it is really an important thing to be able to say no. And it's interesting recently. Well, my team kind of laughs at me because I love technology. I love all the prop tech, but you have to say no to a lot of it, because you can't do everything at one time, like you said. And we have been rolling out since January 1 an AI solution, and and Chris, you're going to say, Mary, you knew better. I let the salesperson talk me into. At first, we were just going to roll it out on 2 or 3 assets, and then it became 5. And then he talked me into, well, but this would work well. And next thing I know, we're rolling it out on the whole portfolio all at one time, which is the stupidest thing I've done all year, really. And it was very painful. And at the same time, there are other technologies that we'd love to implement, and we're having to say no. But sometimes no is not now. Sometimes it's just, we can't bite off anything else right now, or we'll implode, and our team members will be discouraged, because we have this wonderful partner that does employee engagement surveys for us, and they give us action items at the end of each quarter of what the feedback is telling us. And one of the feedbacks we've gotten is, you're rolling out too much too quickly. Well, we just have to put the brakes on and not kill our team just because, shiny object, woo, look over here, something else. There is so much great technology for our industry right now. And we've learned too, we have to say no if it doesn't integrate seamlessly with our property management system, because everything you add that doesn't integrate means a different dashboard, a different app, a different this, a different that. And our team members no longer are customer service people or able to do their jobs. They're computer technicians, and who can make money doing that?
Yeah, definitely a challenge every day. Like you said, we won't dive too deep. We can go into the technology we were talking about earlier, the RecCon conference they just had. Really interesting to hear some of the panels, some of the viewpoints and whatnot. I think just something you just hit on. Obviously, empowering your teams, allowing them to make decisions, giving them a culture where they can educate, they get better, and then they, the other saying is you don't train your teams and they stay with you. Or you train your teams and they become so successful they leave you, right? It's like, which one's better? It sounds like you obviously take the approach of training your teams, empowering them, and they do stay with you because they trust you. Or if they do head out, they come back, right? I've seen the welcome backs to people. So I'm kind of curious, like thinking if we think, about, I think the way I met you was at NAA, and about, you're very active. I think you've been very active in several parts of NAA, but especially the EI, the Education Institute. So I kind of love to hear, like, maybe some of the things that you've learned from them or brought to them, and why you're active in NAA, and maybe something you can impart into other people who hear of why you decided to get so involved in the EI portion.
The NAAEI, and I tease and say NAAEIOU, but the NAAEI, the Education Institute, is incredible. And when I first got involved in it, it's kind of funny. I'd already been speaking and training for a number of years, and I'd seen that they'd had a couple of facilitator training classes, and somebody said, you ought to do that. And I thought, well, I've been training forever. And then I thought, well, you can never learn too much. So I signed up for one of the classes, and it was one of the most nervous things I've ever done. It's great content taught by incredible instructors. And I was really fortunate in my graduating class. Some guys, Mark Kokro and Andy Meador, who are both really great trainers. They were in that class, and some other people that are just incredible trainers. But it was so nerve-wracking and nervous because you got great educational material, but every day you were videotaped on new material you created that day. You were videotaped and listened to by your peers in the class. And after your part, they would give you feedback, live feedback. And I was nervous. I couldn't believe it. I can train in front of 1,000 people and I don't get nervous at all. But in front of this intimate group of peers giving you feedback, it was so stretching. It was wonderful. And part of your commitment as going through this training is that you will train on NAAEI classes going forward, which already was the CAM and the CALP and CAMT. Not CAMT, I'm sorry. I am not qualified for that. The CAPS, I was already doing training on those, so that was an easy commitment for me. But another wonderful thing about NAAEI is every year at Apartmentalize, they have another training for the NAAEI faculty, people like me. They give you more training every year. And I think, wow, they keep giving back to us and helping us so that we're better out there deploying training. So it's a win for me to be part of that organization.
Mary, before I go to the next question, I just want to say hi to everybody in the audience. Thank you for being here with us, for hanging out with us today. Please drop a note in the comments. Let us know where you're watching us from today, and drop some questions in for Mary. We want to take some questions on your behalf and ask her questions. So, Mary, next, this 2024, it's an election year. There's many things happening. The political level. It always affects businesses, right? Especially our business, our industry. What are some things that you see as happening, and how they affect your clients? The owners that you're managing for. How are they affecting them? And what are some trends that you see happening beyond this 2024? What are some challenges? And also, I want to talk about opportunities, not just challenges, right? What are some opportunities that you see in a current environment?
Chris, you also were at NAA Advocate, I believe, and Advocate's always a great opportunity for us to hear what big things are looming and to advocate with our congressmen and senators on what our industry needs. And I think we're hearing a lot about affordable housing and junk fees. And of course, some might call it junk fees, but when we charge back for things, there is a cost. Like if we charge for, I would say for internet, well, we're paying for internet. Or if we're charging back the water, we're paying for the water, whatever it is. So I think it is really important for us as an industry to express to our congressmen, let them hear our voices, because the other voices are so loud, and they don't always tell the whole story. Affordable housing, for example, it is a big issue for our industry, but Chris, you've been involved in development, across the country, over 40% of development cost is related to regulatory fees. Well, it's really hard to build an affordable apartment community when 40% of your cost is just not going to the building. You have to build a Class A. You have to build something that gets you rent return on that big investment. So I think working with our regulatory people and getting those fees to where they're reasonable and everybody kind of being a partner in affordable housing, I think that's a big issue, a big opportunity too. And I think we as an industry need to educate our newer team members on having a voice, that it's not just the old guard that should be talking to congressmen. It's the younger generation of leaders in our industry, or wannabe leaders. They need to have a voice on the industry that pays their salary, that gives them purpose for their day-to-day jobs. And I can get passionate on this, as I'm sure you can too, Chris. If you go to advocate, then I'm sure you're passionate about these issues and this having a voice with our legislators.
Yeah, and I appreciate, like you say, the passion. We all, Adrian. That's why Adrian and I have become such good friends. Is I get to learn from him about spaces I know very little about. And he's got this deep niche expertise. And with you, as you're talking about, understanding, and that was the greatest thing I learned. Advocacy. You go to DC, you think these people know everything. They don't. They need help. They need, whoever's in their ear giving them the thoughts is what they take. And
Yes.
they have, and what I've learned, right? We're not competing in our own world or our own vacuum. It's a competition for time around everything. To your point, around AI. I think one of the things that was brought up at advocacy is, what's great is NAA and NMHC have great leaders who have worked at the state level, at the national level, to educate us, and then to actually go to Capitol Hill and help write the laws. But what blows my mind is someone shared, Chris, they've been working on social media referendums for years and not got anything done. So, when we go there, our goal is to really connect with them, educate them, so that, if we are talking about affordable housing, doing it in the right way. Right. And so that's
Yes.
been great for me to go, because, at the end of the day, we are providing housing and it has to be done the right way. But to your point, that 40% slowing down development,
Yeah.
Restricting development, we could have a whole episode on that, Mary, of going down the rabbit hole. On this topic, I'd love to actually get your thoughts, because something that's always been interesting to me is you have local zoning, local applications, local approvals, right? And I'm sure, in the management side, you're dealing with so many different local municipalities. Then you've got the national, but even in between that, you're having to still deal with state laws, right? And the state
Yeah.
assembly. So I want to get your thoughts of, like, how complicated can that be? You talked about the development side, but on the management side, how important is understanding the local and the state, and then going to national? Is much, because you're focused in two states, is it more that you're focused on the local and state, or is it really important that you're also spending a lot of time on that national?
Chris, that is a great question. And I would say one of the best investments you can have is investing your time and money in your local apartment association and your state association. And in North Carolina and South Carolina, by being member of a local, you also are automatically a member of the state association. I know some states don't work that way, but we have the opportunity to work with a local government affairs committee, and they send us information. We also, in fact, one of my employees is vice chair of the local apartment association's government affairs committee. And then at a statewide level, we have to advocate as well. And we have a great state apartment association, but it is complicated and it's time consuming, but it's what pays our salaries. It's what again provides us a career that we get to go to work every day and have meaning and purpose. So we need to have a voice locally, statewide, and nationally. And so I think it's easier than you would believe if you get involved in your apartment association. And um, and and I think every person who works in this industry, whether it's $1 or $1 million, everybody should donate to their local, state, and national PACs, political action committees, because those help to encourage or to fund the people who vote on behalf of our industry. It's like dollars well spent. And I know that's not what we were technically probably going to hang out and talk about today, but it's a critical part of our livelihoods and our industry.
Mary, I would like to take a question from the audience right now. And Shazia has this question for you. Which area do you see the demand and competition? Has tenants' expectations changed? Have you seen a shift in funding? And can you share any new trends?
Wow, those are all really good questions. So I may need help remembering all of those, Adrian. But starting with uh, the areas of trending, I think AI is a trend in our industry right now, as is everybody's talking about centralization. I think AI, our industry tends to be a little behind the curve, so to speak, with technology, although we're doing better than we used to. Um, but as far as trends for centralization, I think it's going to be more than just talk. I think companies are looking for ways, especially as we're having trouble hiring, retaining team members. It means we have to look at other ways to get work done and to make sure we're still providing customer service, and maybe even taking some of the unpleasant parts of our work and making them centralized with people who that's their aptitude. And a couple of examples I think of, I have a friend whose company has taken the delinquency collection in-house, like centralized. So the on-site team members who've worked really hard to develop these positive relationships with the people they lease to, instead of going from leasing pro to bad renter discipline, take them to court, all of that. It's now centralized in his company so that that relationship isn't broken, so that leasing pro, when it's time to negotiate the renewal, they don't have all this negative relationship with somebody who has been able to reconcile that late rent and get it back on track, and they're not an adversarial relationship. So there are different ways that I think that trend of centralization is going to take some things off of those site team members so that they can do a better job of customer service and the people thing, because AI is not going to replace people, I don't think. Self-guided tours aren't going to replace the people. We still need people because people rent apartments. So let's help people do the things that are best for that site team to do. I think those are AI and centralization are two big trends. And I apologize, Adrian. What other questions were there?
I think was one about the residents' expectations. Have you seen a change in residents' expectation lately?
That's a really good question. And do think one of the important things residents want from renting from us is they want us to provide maintenance service, whether you're the high end with all the bells and whistles or the affordable and not a lot of bells and whistles. People rent from us because we take care of their service problems. And a big example for me is uh, at on December 24th, a year and a half ago, we had, and I think you did as well, Adrian, we had a long period of subnormal temperatures, and we ended up with frozen pipes on December 24th, right as Santa Claus was going overhead, and broken pipes and lots of water in several of our properties, even properties that we did a great job of trying to prevent it. It was just too long of sub-freezing temperatures. So our teams were able to quickly get the water up, get the pipes at least to where there were no leaks, to do a lot of different things. But I had friends who own houses and rather than renting their home, they own their homes. And it was like a month or so before they were able to get people to come in and do the repairs they needed. Our residents, we have to remind them, by the way, how what a great job we do, but they rent from us so that they don't have to miss a day at work to wait while the dishwasher repair person comes. They rent from us, and that's an expectation that's a little bit harder to fulfill right now because we're having trouble keeping service team members. And Adrian, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that I'm gonna say there's an Uber Amazon effect when it comes to expectations in general. Customers in general are becoming more impatient. They expect things quicker, a better service. Honestly, I think Amazon. It's a great example. I love that they're raising the bar up so high, but everybody follows, or like at least they try to keep up with Amazon, right? Like Amazon leads the way by far. There's also the Uber experience, the experience where you don't have to call, be on hold for anything. Literally, you pull up your phone, you order your car, the app will tell you exactly when the car is going to arrive at your home. It'll pick you up. You don't have to, if you don't want to chat with the driver, you don't chat with the driver. If you want to have a conversation, have a conversation. It's so, like, the customer service level, it's so high, and this translates everywhere in society, including
It's true.
including for our residents. And you're making an amazing point. You're speaking my language here when you're saying that maintenance, right? We have to focus on maintenance. It's super important, especially now when a lot of the investors are facing the floating interest rates, that they're it's hard for them to raise the rents like they used to 3 or 4 years ago. So you don't get a rent increase. Then the next thing that you could do is you have to focus on, like, controlling or hopefully reducing expenses. And the number one most controllable expense is maintenance, right? Repairs and maintenance. So the focus on maintenance, not only it's not only close to my heart because I came up in maintenance, but it's a decision, a business decision that makes the most sense in today's environment. I think I will make the case that always, but especially in this environment.
You know, maintenance, I think, is an incredible and crucial part of our brand story. And uh, so you're speaking my language when you talk about our maintenance teams, our maintenance service, and the quality of it. And Adrian, did you work for a company that had a 24-hour service guarantee?
Yes, I did. I did work for one of those. Yes.
Yeah, and at one point, in markets like the Atlanta market and Dallas markets, I know it got so competitive. Some people were offering, and I don't know if anybody still does, but they were offering a 1 hour service guarantee, which I don't even know how you pull that off. You have to, uh, I mean, did you hear of any of that, Adrian, out there?
I have not, but I think I have the solution. You have to hire Amazon. Amazon.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so I think our company has never tried to do the 24-hour guarantee. We have tried to do 24-hour service because, as you said, people want it when they want it. But I think communication helps with that. And I do think AI, and it doesn't even have to be really great AI, but when a service request comes in, um, just like Amazon, with you order something and you get a confirmation, I think the same thing has to happen. And if it doesn't already, our system does, our property management system, when a service request comes in, there's a confirmation sent to the resident. We got your service request. And then once it's completed, they get a notification saying your service request was completed. Are you satisfied? And it gives us a chance for a do-over if we didn't quite, if somehow we missed the mark, or we get a do-over, which I like. And then we also get an opportunity to ask them for a review if we did a good job. But I think there's so much out there that can be automated. And one of the reasons we added the AI system is our industry, since the first email inquiry about an apartment home came in, we've only answered about 50% of email leads. And years later, we're still only answering about 50% of email leads. And a lot of those come in at night. Somebody gets home from work and they're searching online. So the AI allows us to answer those leads on time, and hopefully not with garbage, hopefully with real answers. Or if the AI can't answer the question, they say, hey, I'll have somebody contact you tomorrow. And the same with them answering the phone after hours. And they're not pretending to be anything but AI. They say you've reached the after hours AI assistant, or whatever they say, but they try to answer what questions they can, because people are sort of the instant gratification. They want it now. The same goes with I'm connected to some of our Google business listings, and so on my phone at 9 at night, I'll see somebody's asked, "How much is your 2-bedroom or whatever?" And that AI will be answering the question. I'll think, "Do I need to get on there and answer something?" And there'll be this automated answer, and trying to set an appointment. And I think, I don't have to do anything except maybe get away from my phone. That's what I need to do. Put it down.
Yeah, I love that. I think you gave such a great definition of what AI is going to do, right? It's not necessarily going to replace people. It's going to be that the people that utilize it are going to win more of the leads. They're going to win more of the conversions, is what it sounds like you're saying. And so, we're humans, right? We're going to take vacations. We have certain hours of the day, but if we only cover 1/3 of the day, what do we do at night? And I think of my sisters, I think of my kids, and they're showing me, I was hearing an interesting story, over the last couple of days, of how residents, we think all the Class A need this. It's actually really interesting that the workforce that sometimes
Yeah,
has 2 jobs, they
right.
can never make it to an apartment building because they're working 2 jobs. So they're looking at 1 a.m., 2 a.m. after they get off of work to find that next apartment. And the person who's responsive, or, I was hearing there was a speaker, Mary, that I can share with you afterwards, but they were saying how it used to have people tour 3 or 4 apartment communities. They're touring one, and then they're signing because they did all the homework ahead of time
That's
before they
right.
went in. So it's really interesting. I mean, I think the car industry has kind of moved this way as well, where people know what they want. You just say, like, I told the last 2 car dealerships I worked with, I don't, I just need to test drive it, but have the paperwork ready. I'm coming in to buy. And they were like,
Wow.
what? Like, okay, wow, that's weird. So, but yeah, I want to ask you on the I think there's so many more questions I have for you, but I think as we're kind of coming up on time here, Adrian, can I ask one more, or do we have one more from the audience? Can I ask, or do you want to ask it?
Yeah. Go ahead, Chris. Yeah,
Great.
go ahead.
What's one great piece of advice that maybe you've learned, maybe from someone else, so that you would impart on someone who's, working in multifamily, thinking of getting a multifamily, or looking for their next role?
Oh, that's so big. I think one of the biggest pieces of advice I would have is to really be kind. I know that's not exactly probably what you were hoping for, but our industry is so close knit. It's incredible. I knew Adrian before I ever met him. I've known Adrian for years, but didn't meet him for the first time till a couple of years ago at a conference. And when I saw him, it's like, Adrian! But our industry is so close knit. And as I said earlier, somebody that works for me today, I might be working for tomorrow. Even if I have my company, they may own properties that I may get to manage and serve them, or they may be one of our supplier partners out there. And so it's a wonderful industry with lots of industry friends. And it's important to be kind and to be helpful. I have different suppliers cold call, and I try to take all those calls, or at least call them back if they leave a voicemail. If they don't leave a voicemail, I don't call missed calls, but I try to always call them back, even if I know I'm not going to use their product, but they deserve the respect and the time for me to listen and say, you know, sorry, it's not on our radar right now. We're looking different ways, or gosh, you don't integrate with our software. So unfortunately, we we have a policy that we wouldn't do that. Um, but I think it's be kind. There are all sorts of great leadership wisdoms out there. Um, but the first I would say is be kind. And if I can add one more, it's be a sponge. Uh, my first mentor in the industry probably didn't even know I considered him a mentor, but his first words to me after he gave me this pile of keys and said, "Go with God," and throw people out if they don't pay, or whatever he said. Um, he said, listen to all the conversations around you with the people that you work with. Listen and learn how they do things, how they say things, and it was a mixed bag for me. Sometimes I heard them say things in a way that I thought, well, that is not a good way to address that situation. Maybe they were impatient with a customer or a team member, and I didn't like the way they responded, and I felt like it could have been handled better. Or they had finesse with the way they talked with a resident about an issue, a service request, or the way they apologized for something that really wasn't their fault, or whatever it was. His mentorship was listen, be a sponge. And I would add to that as well, read everything you can. I get so many industry and non-industry newsletters that I try to early in the morning. I have my quiet time, and it includes my devotional time first and then my industry. Read everything I can, but also listen to everything you can. Like, listen on a hangout like this. This is my go-to, listen to I'm honored to be here because you've had so many great people on here, and you can get the replay. That's one of the things I love, is you can listen to it later, and listen to some of the other experts in the industry, their podcasts, because you can get so much from those. I
Mary,
think I
I'm
thought I
sorry.
lost you for a second.
No, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No,
Um,
I
as
wax long. I told you I was a talker, Adrian.
we love the talkers. And again, we're not scripting. We're just trying to create like a free place here for everybody, for our guests to express their thoughts. In closing, Mary, I'd like to ask you. You had an outstanding career. but legacy, it's important. I think it's important for all of us. I can't speak for others. It is for me. How would you like to be remembered?
Oh, thank you for asking that. That is a very deep question. I work with this incredible woman named Lisa Bisher. She's our director of property management. And everywhere we go together, I don't care if it's NAA or a local meeting, we run into people that started with her. She started in student housing, and they started even as students working for her in leasing. And now they've got these great big careers. And I think, I want to be like her and leave a legacy of the future leaders of our industry. And so I would say recently I've had the honor of getting to participate in the Multifamily Media Network doing something called PX Multifamily, which is the People Experience podcast. And it is sharing stories and having guests like you who share stories about the people experience and how to make it better, because ours is such a great people industry. And I hope that that will be a vehicle to help other people learn from, say, your and my mistakes, learn from our victories or the things we did right, and share ways that that they can make a difference with people, because it is, people are what's really important in our industry, whether it's the people we work for, the people we work with, the residents we serve, the supplier partners that we have. It's people that make the difference.
Mary, it was a pleasure to have you here today. Thank you so much for hanging out with us for an hour. Chris Moreno, any final thoughts?
Well, thank you, Mary. I love the stories. I love what you said about being kind. That's on the walls where I work. When you come to Atlanta next to come for lunch or to have join us at a happy hour that we put together, I would love to host you at where we work, so you can see the ideals and the offices that I work out of. But I loved your stories. I think it was a blast. I think so many people in the audience, amazing audience, by the way. I can't believe how many people came out today. We had over 50 people, I noticed, at one time in the room, maybe even more. But I'm always excited we have more than 10. So great job. You obviously have a lot of people who are saying kind things and love you, and keep it up. Thank you for mentoring others, supporting others, and sharing it, and not keeping it to yourself. I really appreciate that.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to hang out.
Everybody, thank you for being here with us, for hanging out, for sharing this special hour. And I also want to thank our sponsors for making this broadcast possible. They are Apartment Snapshot and GPS Roof Leak Repairs. Have an amazing day, and we will see you next week for another Hangout, Thursday, 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Be back. Take care.
Thank you.